Hi, I'm Kai Cheng Thom, and you're watching Ask Kai, Quickies, a series of short videos in which I tell you everything you've ever wanted to know and maybe a few things you didn't about sex, relationships, and dating. So today's question comes from someone who says, my partner and I are in a lesbian relationship, and I don't think this is on purpose, but we barely have sex anymore. I don't know why this has happened. What can we do to get things going again? Okay, so I just want to get something out of the way, which might be on some viewers' minds, which is the term lesbian bed death. Whenever people ask questions about trying to get things rekindled sexually in their relationships, and they also identify as lesbian, I think this term is bound to come up, lesbian bed death, which is different from lesbian deathbed. Look that up by yourselves. So lesbian bed death is a reference to the cultural myth that lesbians don't have sex or can't have sex, and that they start off having some kind of queer scissoring sex, but then it quickly fizzles out and then they don't have sex anymore. And so, this phrase, lesbian bed death, can be kind of funny. Sometimes it's a joke, often an in-joke between members of the queer community, particularly queer women and lesbian identified folks. But it can also have a hurtful connotation and does refer to a stereotype that I think it's important to say just isn't true. Lesbians can and do have many kinds of wonderful, hot, incredible sex, as can lots of other kinds of people, and also sometimes stop having sex when they are in long-term committed relationships, or just, in relationships in general, because everyone does that. Bed death, the phenomenon where you stop feeling sexually attracted or sexually motivated, or you just can't get it on with a partner you've been seeing for a while or for a long time, is something that happens to everyone. Heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, pansexual, omnisexual, all the other kinds of sexual, this can happen to you. It's just normal that when we are in a longish term sexual relationship with someone, the chemistry can fizzle. It can fizzle out. It can be hard to get the spark back. And I think that's because the vast majority of people are primed. Maybe it's biological, maybe it's cultural, maybe it's a mix of both. We are really primed to find novelty sexually attractive. There are all kinds of sexologists, sexual scientists out there with their magnifying glasses who are studying the phenomenon of sexual arousal, and there are lots of different theories, right? A common theory that was propagated by the sexologist Jack Morin says that sexual arousal is attraction plus a barrier. So that means that we have to have some kind of distance between us and the object of desire, which isn't the case when you have a long-term partner that you're already having a sexual relationship with. There's not necessarily a challenge there. So some people would say that the lack of challenge or the lack of distance is actually what prevents arousal from igniting. Now, other people would say that's really problematic, and there are other ways of looking at it. A relationship therapist, Esther Perel, likes to talk about the importance of adventure and finding something new in a romantic or sexual partner, and how the factors that make for a stable long-term relationship, that is consistency and communication and warmth and compassion, are actually opposite to the factors that create adventure and excitement in a relationship, which is mystery and newness and suspense. So there are a lot of different theories to check out, but the bottom line is this is an observed phenomenon. It happens to people. It's perfectly normal, and there are all kinds of reasons for that. And what we do also know about rekindling sexual excitement, erotic arousal in longer or long-ish partnerships is introducing new factors, new novelty, new excitement, new mystery can be a way to get things going again. And that can be sort of this age-old advice of, well, have you tried kink, right? Have you tried putting on a costume or doing something new in the bedroom itself that's a little spicy, but it doesn't have to be as contrived as that. A lot of people say, well, I could never get into wearing a costume. I could never spank my partner. I could never pretend to be an octopus and engulf them in my suckers. Or maybe you could. That one just came out, guys. But, maybe it's as simple as you go on a vacation together. Maybe it's as simple as you have sex in the woods. Disclaimer, don't do anything that's illegal and could get you in legal trouble. But you know what I mean? Have sex in a new environment. Sometimes it's as simple as people are too busy to feel sexually aroused. If you're trapped in a routine, then it's hard to be like, oh, wow, I'm excited by my partner. I'm having an erotic adventure. Maybe it's just about taking time off and doing a staycation together. Something that happened to me is that I've been in a relationship with a partner for 7 years, and we've gone through various periods of being sexual and non-sexual. And then we got married, and for the week after our wedding, we were suddenly like really into each other again. That's just on my mind. Sometimes doing things that are intentional and romantic can get the spark going again. Maybe it's like you go on a hot date. Maybe you take each other out for dinner. Maybe you go on a nice long walk under the stars and drink some champagne. It's about looking for intentional moments. Here's another thing that sex therapists or sexologists will often say that feels difficult to get into at first, but can often actually be really helpful in practice, which is scheduling erotic or romantic time. Now, everybody goes, oh my God, I can't schedule it. It's not on the clock. And I think that's a very valid point. You can't just say, I'm going to have sex at 2:00 and then have sex. Like that actually puts a lot of pressure on the couple. It's not hot for lots of people. But it can be really helpful to say, 2:00 on Sundays is the time that I spend with my partner working on reconnection. And then if you just spend time together going on a date, maybe doing something erotic, but also maybe not, without any particular goal orientation. Like the goal is not to each other in any particular way. The goal is not to use a particular toy or do anything huge. It's just to be together and explore eroticism. That often really does help because it's setting the time and creating this sort of sheltered space where you can explore eroticism with one another. Non-goal orientation in general is a big way to rekindle sexuality. The way that we have sex with partners when we first meet them, maybe when we're a lot younger than we are now, potentially, is not necessarily the way that we are going to have sex and feel good about it when we are a year into the relationship or 20 years into the relationship. We have to keep evolving as our bodies and our needs and our attractions are evolving to be able to stay connected in a romantic and sexual way. And along the lines of like non-goal oriented erotic play is, I would say, having erotic time together that isn't necessarily focused on having sex at all, if that makes any sense. Let me give you an example. So something that sex educators or sexologists or sex therapists might suggest a couple to do is spend time together naked or wearing lingerie and then just watching TV. Or wearing any kind of outfit that is sexual and hanging out. Maybe giving each other an erotic massage. Maybe taking a shower or a bath together with the idea that the naked time or the bath time or the lingerie time or whatever it is in itself the goal, just to spend time being erotic with one another, but not having sex. And there's two different kinds of ways that this is sometimes said to work. And the first is that it kind of builds suspense, like you're like, ooh, we're being sexual, we're not having sex. Now there's a challenge. Now I want it. And so sometimes that's the way people think it works. And then sometimes it's just like, well, you're rediscovering one another. You're getting re-exposed to one another without a ton of pressure or meaning behind the re-exposure. So it's not like we have to have sex now or we don't love each other, which is actually something that people worry about sometimes. It's like, oh, we're just hanging out naked and seeing what feelings come up. And you might be surprised at what feelings do emerge. So all this to say, bad death is something that can happen to anyone who's in any kind of partnership. And the suggestions that I'm giving, I think, are applicable to any kind of relationship. Lesbian, heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual, all the sexuals. It's pretty normal. It's even to be expected, and it can be fun and exciting to look for new ways to connect erotically. And so if I'm going to give a last piece of advice, it would be to try to have fun with it. Not take it too seriously. Just explore, experiment, take things lightly, be silly even, get messy, make mistakes. I'm the Miss Frizzle of sex, and see what happens. All right, kids, that's it for today. I'm Kai Cheng Thom, and you've been watching Ask Kai. Quickies. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe at Xtra Magazine.